What's up, guys? Squatch here. So, I'm just gonna vent my thoughts. I personally don't like Prismatic. Whoa, pitchforks away. Let me explain why. One first reason is I feel Prismatic is uninspired. I know the point of it is to be kind of a jack of all trades. You can do whatever you kind of want with it, but I feel like it's very limiting for the suppose that I can do kind of what I want with it. Now, what do I mean by limiting? I feel like with Hunter, Titan, and Warlock that there is an aspect for each of them that are practically necessary to make the subclass work. For Hunter, it's Stylish Executioner. For Warlock, it's Devour. And for Titan, it's Consecration. Now, the other aspects are just like added benefits, like you can get little bits of bonuses, especially in in-game content, don't really do anything that useful. You could argue for Knockout on Titan, but honestly, without these aspects, I think Prismatic would be an utter flop. Right? For Hunter with Stylish Executioner, you would just have so many ways to proc it that you can have almost permanent uptime on invisibility, which is like you're basically your only survivability tool within Prismatic, so it's almost necessary in game. And then Warlock with Devour, if you want your abilities to come back at all, then you're gonna want Devour, and Devour is just so strong. It's kind of ridiculous how strong Devour is. And then Titan with Consecration really doesn't, I don't know, Titans just feel lackluster in game content anyways. You have to be kind of in the fray for Consecration, and you have the 1 to 2 seconds where you're actually activating Consecration where you can get shot, and if there's anything like snipers or anything, then you really can't use it. You're very limited on Titan to what you can do, but Titan's a whole different story that we're not going to get into. I feel like if you don't use these aspects on Prismatic, then you will be severely lacking in the strength of Prismatic. Exotic class items, first off, they are way too hard to get, especially the role you want. Can't tell you how many of them I have gotten that are just duplicates, and how often I can just be grinded through at the Pale Heart and it'd be like 70 plus chests before I ever get an exotic class item, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know personally on my Titan that I don't think I've gotten a single Heart of a Most Light roll, and I've gotten like 40 plus exotic class items. And for the exotic class items, most of these, the perks, like, yeah, they're kind of cool and they're kind of interesting, what you can do with certain builds, but I feel like the strength of the builds don't really warrant the class item. Like most of the time with Prismatic, I find myself, again, going back to those certain fragments and basically having the same build that I had before, just with minor differences that really don't essentially matter. I don't know, this could just be me not liking Prismatic, but when a majority of the exotic class items that you want should have Spirit of a Most Light, and then you can include something else on top of it, like Spirit of Most Light is almost necessary to make any build within Prismatic work, at least if you want to spam your ability. Almost nothing in the first column on any of the classes really mattered that much compared to Spirit of the Most Light. Now, I'm not calling for Spirit of the Most Light nerf because I feel like it's what it should be, but I feel like everything else just doesn't matter to the degree of Spirit of the Most Light. And again, it always leads back to those three aspects that feel like they are completely necessary in in-game content to make Prismatic work. And even with all the combinations on the exotic class items, like every time I build out, say, my Hunter or my Titan or my Warlock, it always leads back to like, I must use this to make it work at all. To number two, why I don't like Prismatic, I feel like it just has no identity. I feel like it's just like, it's supposed to be a mishmash of everything, but there's nothing like that makes me like crazy about Prismatic over the other subclasses. And I think one thing that was always cool about Destiny is if like you wanted to invest into a specific subclass, like you were invested into that specific subclass, but like you have all these different buffs and things and combinations that you want to try, but then they don't really work because you don't get the full benefits of actually being on the subclass, then you just end up back at using those three aspects because they are essentially the identity of Prismatic. And I think what really makes the regular subclasses so cool is that they do have their own identity and their own keywords and their own build crafting and their own identity of when you want to use them. But Prismatic is just like, yeah, I could do a little bit of everything, but nothing crazily well except this one build that is really strong, but the rest rest of them are just kind of meh at best. And I feel like with Prismatic, again, it comes back to like in the end game, realistically, you're always going to be using Stylus Executioner and Devour, and Titan is a whole nother thing. Like I don't think they have any use on Prismatic. Like they have no survivability tools other than picking up the orb and gaining the small benefit from whatever super they're using. But other than that, Titans kind of really lack in the department of survivability on Prismatic because their strongest aspect is consecration. Now you might be like, well, there's ambient lead, but like if you focus into strand with actual ambient lead, you get woven mail and you get so many more benefits from using strand specifically than you do if you were using Prismatic. But to use Hunter as an example, how every build kind of is the same that includes Stylus Executioner, we're going to look into the exotic class item perks of Hunter and tell me, like, which one of these combos would you not want to use Stylus Executioner for? Now you could sub out Stylus Executioner for Spirit of the Assassin, but why would you? Because you can get it off of grenade kills, incandescent, you can get Stylus Executioner to proc off of everything, so Spirit of the Assassin is essentially useless on Hunter. Spirit of a Most Light is probably the most ideal perk in the first column to get, because every time you use an ability you just get empower the other abilities to regen faster, so it is probably the most useful in this first column. And then you got Spirit of Ophidian, absolutely useless in PvE. Spirit of the Dragon, absolutely useless in PvE. It doesn't even give you a mobility increase or anything. It just allows you to use your melee dodge and so to get your melee back and reload your weapons. So kind of cool, but it really is kind of useless. Spirit of Galanor, good, but I feel like why would you use that over a Most Light? Most Light at least buffs your neutral game, because most of the time your super really isn't that important unless you're using Celestial Nighthawk. But if you're using Celestial Nighthawk, then you're not going to be using this. So Spirit of Foe Tracer is meh. I think there is actually a bug with this that doesn't work correctly, because using it, it wasn't actually proccing correctly. And Spirit of Caliban, powered melees, that's basically, you would want Stylus Executioner because this works best with the combination blow, and if you're combination blowing and you want to go invisible, that's a pretty good combo. So like Spirit of Caliban almost feels like it's necessary to run Stylus Executioner with. And Spirit of Renewal, this one actually pretty decent, but I feel like why use this when you could have Spirit of a Most Light and just get all your abilities back faster so you can kill the enemies rather than trying to reduce the damage that they're dealing to you. Now into column 2, Spirit of the Star Eater, like this is really good, but I feel like for Hunter, why not just run Star Eater skills? And it really is not going to change whether or not you're using Stylus Executioner. Spirit of Synthoceps, you just increase your melee damage when you're surrounded. Cool. Stylus Executioner still benefits. There's no reason to use any of the other aspects over Stylus Executioner. But Spirit of the Synthoceps, Spirit of Verity, there's really no grenades on Hunter that really would benefit from Spirit of Verity. Maybe you could use it with swarm grenades, but I feel like it's kind of a waste to use it with swarm grenades. But it still doesn't remove the fact that Stylus Executioner is probably still the best aspect to use for it. Spirit of Sertarachne, gain woven mail when you use your grenade. Like, yeah, this is good. If you're going to use your grenade and you're going to get a kill or anything, why not go invisible afterwards? You see what I mean? Most of these like wouldn't require you to swap your aspect for something else, because Stylus Executioner is probably the best aspect on the Prismatic subclass. Then we have Spirit of Gerfalcons. Like this is almost useless because you can activate, especially how Prismatic is and spamming abilities, you can just get a kill with your void grenade and then you're already got volatile weapons. And if you get a melee kill, then you got unraveling rounds. So, but again, this doesn't remove the fact that like having Stylus Executioner with this would actually probably be pretty good, because you could just keep spamming the invis. And then you have Spirit of the Liar, which is just Liar's Handshake. And again, if you're going around meleeing stuff, you probably want Stylus Executioner so you have that survivability. Spirit of the Wormhusk, I don't think is very usable in PvE because it gives you half of what normal Wormhusk does, and Wormhusk already doesn't give you a lot of health, and in PvE that health is absolutely useless when you could just pick up an orb and regen your entire health bar rather than like a quarter of your health bar. Now Spirit of the Coyote, really good, but again, like how would this change? Maybe if you wanted to run Threaded Spectre, but then you could still have Stylus Executioner with it. So you see what I mean? There's nothing in this that would kind of bring you to want to use something other than Stylus Executioner. And you can really say that with any exotic that would provide invisibility. Like Stylus Executioner on Prismatic is pretty necessary necessary to the success of Prismatic Hunter, especially in in-game, that there's no reason to run anything else. And it kind of works the same way with Devour on Warlock. We're not going to go through the Warlock exotic class items, but I will say that a few more things feel usable, but like that's because you have Devour. Devour is really, really strong at just regenerating your abilities, so having that with Art of a Most Light is like absolutely cracked. But I still feel you're kind of locked into these very specific form build crafting that really limits you on Prismatic, because like I said, every time I try to make a build on Prismatic, I always find myself going back to those three aspects: Stylist, Executioner, Consecration, and Devour, or on all three classes, because they're just the strongest of Prismatic. Maybe that's why I don't like it, is because I feel like if you're using anything else, you really can't compete in-game, because the survivability of your class is very, very limited without them. Now with Titan, it's a whole different story again. Like Titan's survivability in-game, unless you're just getting a bunch of melee kills, is non-existent on Prismatic, I feel like. But that's just my thoughts. I don't know, I'm just having trouble liking Prismatic because it feels like a hodgepodge, and there's not really much build diversity you can actually do that actually matters compared to the other subclasses. But I know Prismatic is supposed to be the hodgepodge. Yes, it really is the jack of all trades, master of none kind of subclass. I know it can be really, really strong, but you know, it is really showing why a mixture of all subclasses is kind of a bad idea, because realistically there's always gonna only be one really strong aspect, and that's all you're ever gonna use. Because why use anything inferior or weaker when there's no point? Because all the exotic class items benefit those specific aspects the most. I don't know, again, this is just my thoughts. I don't know, I personally just not a fan of Prismatic, but that could just be me. I don't know. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you made it this far, please think about subscribing and liking. It doesn't cost you anything, and I will see you guys later.